Good morning, everyone. My name is Patty Artessa, and I'm the Director of Public and Government Affairs for AAA Northeast. I want to welcome everyone to our webinar on Discover the Erie Canal and the 750-mile Empire State Trail, where the past meets the present. Today, our panelists are Jean McKay, who is the Director of Communications and Outreach for the Erie Canalway. We also have Dylan. Welcome, Dylan, who's the Project Director for Parks and Trails New York. And we have Anastasia, who's a AAA Northeast Travel Advisory in Utica, New York. At the end of the presentation, we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers that you can submit on the chat bar. And as I mentioned in the invitation, the Empire State Trail is a new initiative placing New York at the forefront of national efforts to enhance outdoor recreation, community vitality, and tourism development. We are excited to share with you the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor. Our first presenter today is Jean McKay. And a little bit of Jean's background. Jean has served as the Director of Communications and Outreach for the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor since 2007. Jean works with the federal, state, and local agency and organizations throughout the 500-mile-long National Heritage Corridor to preserve canal heritage, promote tourism, and foster vibrant communities connected by New York iconic waterways. And what a beautiful site that is. So welcome, Jean. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Patty. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody, and I'm so appreciative of your interest in the Erie Canal and learning more about where you can go, what you can discover here. I'm really fortunate because I think I have one of the best jobs along the Erie Canal. I get to promote and showcase our canal heritage. I get to invite people to come here to enjoy all the things that there is to see and do. And I play a role in preserving our remarkable canal heritage as well. So today I'm hoping to kind of unlock canal travel with you, show you some of the best things to do, best places to go, and ways to explore. I'm going to provide you with a variety of information, and so I encourage you to put questions right in the chat as we go, or jot them down so that you don't lose the thought of them, because we definitely will have time at the end and want to make sure that we address anything that you're wondering about. Okay, next slide. So this is an extraordinary place. It really exists nowhere else. The Erie Canal had a profound impact on the nation. When it opened in 1825, New York's canals provided a vital link between the Atlantic Ocean and the Great Lakes. The Erie Canal is what gave rise to the Empire State, because it meant that people and goods came to New York and moved through New York to the west. And so at the time, it just really opened up the West, the Midwest, to agriculture, to settling, to industry, all those things, and really became like the mother of cities. So all of the major cities in upstate New York, Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, grew up along the canal and exist because of where the Erie Canal was built. Next slide. But I think what's really remarkable is that it's still here. It's still a place that you can come and see where boats have traveled for 200 years. The canal was enlarged 3 times over the years. So during those enlargements, some of the route changed, some of the canal structures changed, but there is still so much that's intact. And so you can still take a boat from Albany all the way to Buffalo. You can ride your bike along the former towpath along the canal from Albany to Buffalo. And you can visit canal towns and villages along the way that have been welcoming and serving canal travelers for 200 years. Next slide. All right, now not every place has a song, but we do. And you may not have heard of it or heard the song since you were in 4th grade. but I'm willing to bet that you have. So we're going to do a little Erie Canal song quiz and just get this out of the way. I want to open the chat and I want to encourage you to put in there, what was the name of the mule? What were the barges filled with? And why did the boatman say, everybody down? So go ahead. I'm hoping someone is going to put some responses in there. Think back to your old canal song. Otherwise, you're going to have to come here and hear it for yourself. And you will when you somewhere along the line, someone will sing the song.
Mark, did anybody put something in there?
Yeah, we've had a few answers rolling in.
Kimberly says Sal, and yes, the mule's name was Sal. Absolutely.
Yep. Kimberly Roberts says Sal. She also says lumber, coal, and hay. And we've
Yes.
have Emily says Low Bridge.
Correct.
So Low Bridge, everybody down. Jessica Mink.
You got it.
Low Bridge. So it looks like Dan Hall with another Low Bridge. So
beautiful. That's correct. So Sal was the name of the mule, and the barges were filled with lumber, coal, and hay. And the line of the song is Low Bridge, everybody down. And we still have those low bridges. You can come and see them. Next slide. We also have a lot of mules still here. They're not all live, but a lot of communities have erected tributes to Sal the mule, and they are a nice focal point for kids especially, or any travelers to come and see the mules along the canal. Next slide. So the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor is a pretty big place, and I want to orient you to it with a map. The blue line on the map is the canal itself. And you'll see the label Erie Canal running east to west, but the canal system also includes 3 other canals: the Champlain Canal, which goes north-south, the Oswego Canal, which connects the Erie with Lake Ontario, and the Cuga-Seneca Canal, and that connects the Erie Canal with the Finger Lakes region. So boaters really have more than just the east-west route to explore. There's 500 plus miles of waterway here. The Erie Canalway Trail is 365 miles. It runs east to west from Buffalo to Albany. And much of that is along the canal's former towpath, though not all. There are more than 200 communities, cities, towns, and villages that are within the boundaries of the National Heritage Corridor, which is the green part that you see on the map. That's the designation of the Heritage Corridor. And so think about the National Heritage Corridor. We're kind of like a new type of national park. If you think about Yosemite or Grand Canyon, these are places that have 1 or 2 entry points, and the National Park Service manages what's happening within the boundaries of the park. Here it's different because there are multiple entry points along the canal, and New York State and the New York State Canal Corporation operate and manage the canals. The National Park Service role is kind of as an overlay, and we serve as a catalyst and a support, and we augment state and local efforts to preserve canal heritage, to promote the canal, and to sort of celebrate that heritage for New York. I also just want to call your attention briefly. If you can see, it's a little bit hard to see it, but there's a blue dotted line. And if you look at Syracuse, you'll see there's a dotted line that runs through Syracuse, and then there's the solid line that goes through Oneida Lake. So that blue dotted line is the route of the canal in the 1800s. So it ran right through Syracuse, it ran right through Rochester in the 1800s. And then in 1918, the canal was enlarged for its 3rd time. And when it was enlarged, in part, it was to make it bigger so it could handle more boats, bigger boats, but also because we no longer really needed the mules. In the 1900s, we suddenly had motor power. And so the canal was moved in certain sections into rivers and into lakes. So today, from Oneida Lake all the way to Albany, it's really running in the Mohawk River. And the old canal is alongside it. And in some places you see the old locks and structures. In some places they've been paved over and you don't. In Western New York, the canal has stayed in the same path for 200 years. So I'll talk more about regional differences in a few minutes, but I wanted to make that clear so that if I say the canal of the 1800s, that may be in a different place than where the canal is now. Next slide.
You know, Jean, that is an excellent point that you just made, and I'm glad that you highlighted that.
Good, good. So, you know, regardless of whether it's the old canal, the current day canal, all of the canals are historic, and there's just this exceptional combination of scenery, history, culture, natural resources that are very much intact today. And that's part of what led to the designation of the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor. And the current canal is also a National Historic Landmark. So when you're traveling here, you're seeing historic canal boats, engineering marvels from the 1800s, beautiful locks and aqueducts, and also, you know, an active waterway. And all of that really combines to make such an interesting and unique travel experience. Next slide. The canal really runs through it all. And so it's just what you would think. This very much in many places, just straight waterway that's running right across the heart of upstate New York. And it connects, you know, great outdoor recreational experiences, whether you're boating or biking, or you're a car traveler and you want to do some of those things. It's a great place for day trips, for weekend getaways, and also for longer vacations. And I think what's especially good last year and this year, we found it's really a kind of pandemic perfect activity because so much of it is outside, that you can really experience things. And all the sites along the canal have worked really hard to enforce pandemic protocols. So travelers can feel safe here, whether they're cycling or boating or what have you. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit now about things to see and do here, and then I'm going to talk about regional variation. So next slide. The biggest thing that people want to do here is get on the water, and they want to know, where can I do that? So the good news is there are a lot of different tours offered, and they're in a variety of places all along the waterway. The tours in Buffalo and Albany are in river sections. So the Buffalo River and the Hudson River for Albany, the ones in between are on the canal. And so it's just such a beautiful way to experience the waterway for a couple of hours, leave the driving to someone else. Some tours offer dinner or lunch. Most of them are narrated. You'll get to go through a lock and just experience the beauty of the waterway. Next slide. If you want to try your hand at being on a canal boat, you can also rent a vacation boat. And this picture at the top shows you some of the most popular vacation rentals on the canal. And these boats are equipped with everything that you need. They often come with bicycles, so you can explore the trail as well. You get a lesson in steering and docking and going through a lock before they set you on your way, but you don't necessarily need prior experience in boating to rent one. So it's very doable, and people do 3 days, 4 days, a whole week. There's a variety of places to go on the canal. If you have your own boat, you can of course come and enjoy the waterway anywhere you want to go. It takes about a week to go all the way across the canal from Albany to Buffalo in a boat. You can also just enjoy watching boats. Most of the canal locks have parks right alongside them. And so a lot of people just enjoy going there and seeing what's coming through. There's just all kinds of fascinating vessels that are on the canals. And then you can paddle the waterway. Next slide. In the last few years, we've worked very hard to make the canal a water trail. It's 450 miles of waterway. There's 140 different public access sites. Paddlers can go through locks. It's no cost to go through the locks for any boat right now, paddlers included. And it really, you know, some people think, oh my goodness, I'm going to be this little tiny kayak in a huge lock. It's very safe, it's very gentle, and it's really fabulous experience because you are like this little tiny kayak in a big lock. If you don't own a kayak, you can also rent one in many locations for a couple of hours, or you can rent one for a whole week and really have an adventure along the canals with paddling. So we hope to see more paddlers enjoying the waterway in the coming years. There's also some fun events that will introduce you to paddling along the canals. The picture here is from one in Waterford where we had about 150 kayaks and canoes going through the Waterford flight of locks. There's 5 locks in Waterford. So
Gee, that is absolutely beautiful picture. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think about the locks only because I used to take our boat through the locks from Oneida River onto Oneida Lake and then up through there. And I just remember hanging onto the rope as it went down and then went up. This is amazing.
And that's, again, like, it's unique because it's not like you can do that anywhere else. And
No.
I think as travelers, that's the kind of thing we're looking for, is where can I go to have a unique experience that I can't do somewhere else? All right, next slide. The other way to really experience the canal corridor is on a bike. And Dylan's going to talk a lot more about this. So I'm just going to hold it to one slide here to say, you know, with a trail that's 365 miles from Buffalo to Albany, there's a lot to see and experience along it. It's also part of the Empire State Trail, 750-mile long trail. So there's just great day trips and also adventurous multi-day journeys you can have along this trail. I've cycled from Buffalo to Albany a couple of times and also made some smaller, you know, long weekend trips out of it. I think being on the water, whether you're paddling or cycling, is one of the best ways to see the corridor because you're kind of seeing it in the way that it was built. And it's more like slow travel. You're really immersed in the place in a way that you aren't so much if you're driving from one place to another, although there's certainly fun driving itineraries too, if you want to enjoy the canal that way. Next slide.
Jean, how long did that take you?
8 days.
By bike? 8 days? Wow.
Yep.
Pretty impressive.
Yep. Thank you. Dylan has done it too. But, you know, along the way, there's just these great communities. And a lot of them are places that you wouldn't typically go or see, but you're seeing them because you're on a bike. And most small towns along the canal are about 10 miles apart. And they were built that way because they're along the canal. And that was about how far a canal boat would go. So they go from one community and stop. A lot of them are called ports, Spencerport, Brockport. And there's a reason that's an Erie Canal port town. And so these are places that are really proud of their canal heritage. They have some fantastic museums and historic sites that are canal related. They're very eager to share with you their canal heritage. But you also have some big cities along the corridor too. So it definitely, you know, there's a lot of ways to kind of mix it up. Next slide. I think it's fun to take advantage of festivals and events while you're here. And as I said, a lot of canal communities, they're very proud of their canal heritage. So many of them have canal festivals. They have concerts on the water. They have, you know, boating celebrations. And so it's fun to take advantage of these festivals and events. Now, last year, most of them were canceled. This year, I think sites are starting to figure out new ways to have events, but I think next year will really be a year when a lot of the activities, bigger activities with crowds, will come back. I think you'll see more paddling events this year in particular because people can do that and be outside and safely distanced on the water. So watch for some of that. Okay, next slide. The other thing that I love to do and that I would encourage you to do if you come here is to sample some of the local flavor. There's a lot of craft beverages very close to the canal, some like right along the canal. You can stop and go to a brewery, to wineries. There's local cheeses produced in the Mohawk Valley in particular That's an area that has produced cheese for a long time, a lot of dairy farms, and that the cheeses used to be shipped right on the canal. Now there's some, cheese festivals and garlic festivals and a lot of farmers markets, and there's some really interesting regional specialties as well. Next slide. So I thought it might be fun to test your knowledge of some of those regional specialties and see if you've actually even tried any of these before. So we're going to use the chat again, and you can feel free to type in. So the idea is you've got 4 food choices: chicken riggies, the garbage plate, beef on weck, and salt potatoes. And you can write in something like, okay, chicken riggies, 1A, or maybe 1C, 1D. You just type the number and the one you think it is, and we'll see if we can figure out what these are, and maybe even, what the heck is a garbage plate process. So if you think you know, or if you've had one of these and love it, feel free to put your comment in the chat and I'll go through them with you.
Do you have any, Mark?
Yeah, we've got a couple people. So Alexandra Beck says 1D, 2B, 3A, 4C, and Kimberly Roberts, same choices. And
I think the people from Utica all know that it is chicken riggies for number 1. And salt potatoes are Syracuse, right?
That's correct.
And the other 2 I'm confused at. Garbage plate's probably Buffalo, no?
Rochester.
Garbage plate is Rochester.
Okay.
Chicken riggies are that's an Italian dish. So those of you from Utica, Rome area, you know that one. And a lot of Italians came and worked on the canal in the 1900s. That's when there was a large influx of Italian people. They worked on what's called the barge canal, and that's the canal that we currently have operating. And they brought with them a number of Italian specialties and created some of their own. And so chicken riggies is a pasta dish, and it's chicken, but also like a rigatoni and hot or sweet peppers and a spicy cream and tomato sauce. The garbage plate is what you see here, and that is a specialty of Rochester. I have to admit, I have no interest in eating this, but it's a combination of home fries, macaroni salad, baked beans, or French fries, topped by your choice of meats. It could be a hot dog or hamburger or both, sometimes an egg as well. And it's dressed with spicy mustard, chopped onions, and hot sauce. And of course, a side of Italian bread and butter, in case it wasn't enough. And different restaurants have their own kind of garbage plate combination. So feel free to try that if you're in the Rochester area. Beef on weck is from Buffalo, and they also, of course, invented buffalo wings. I thought that'd be too easy for the quiz. Weck is a kummel weck. That's a type of roll, and it's topped with kosher salt and caraway seeds. And then the beef is roast beef, sliced very thin, and it usually comes with a dipping sauce and maybe some horseradish. And salt potatoes.
That sounds good.
Yep, so that's pretty good. Salt potatoes are from the Syracuse area. And those also date from the canal days. So a lot of Irish immigrants came and worked on the Erie Canal in the 1800s. Many of them settled in Syracuse. And then when the canal was built, they stayed in Syracuse and they worked in the salt industry. And so the workers would bring with them for lunch kind of the small runty potatoes. And that would be their lunch. And they would boil them in very salty water. And so that's where the salt potato comes from in Syracuse, and you can still eat those today. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about planning your trip, because it is a big place, and I kind of want to break it down for you in different regions and just give you a quick flavor of some of the regional differences. Next slide. So the upstate major cities, Albany, Schenectady, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, all grew up along the canal, and those are good places to start. It's about 90 miles between each section on the canal. So sometimes I think of doing a journey and I think, all right, I'm going to do Buffalo to Rochester, Rochester to Syracuse, Little Falls to Albany, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go through each of those regions with you. Next slide. And you may find here that you want to jot down a note of like something you see or some, one of these regions that you say like, oh, I want to go there. So in Buffalo, this was the old terminus of the canal, and where that took place, where the canal once came out is now a very lively place called Canalside. There's a museum there, a reconstructed canal waterway. There's paddling and lots of activities going on there. There's skating in the wintertime. So that's a fun place to go and see and kind of start a journey. And of course, Buffalo has all the big city, museums and art galleries and things like that. Lots of good culture and food. It's about half an hour from Niagara Falls. So a lot of people tack on a trip to Niagara Falls and then see the canals. But the thing I love about the Buffalo to Rochester section is that actually when you leave Buffalo, it's pretty rural in Western New York. There's a lot of agriculture happening here and a lot of small villages that grew up along the canal. They still have this great old architecture, and they're just really interesting places to kind of poke around in. So that's what's really nice about this area. You get some real variety. Next slide. A lot of people refer to this area as the 100 must-see miles along the canal because it does follow its original path. And there's just a lot of, intact sites and communities here. I think one of the must-sees is Lockport. This is what you see on the top picture, and this is where there were 5 locks that were built in the 1800s to lift boats up the Niagara Escarpment. In the 1918 enlargement of the canal, the locks were changed, and there are 2 locks that are currently working to operate and take boats up the escarpment, but they're side by side with the historic locks. The historic locks are being renovated now, and so there are small boats that go through there just as demonstration boats. On the weekends, there are people on hand to show you how the old locks work. And you can even push the extremely heavy lock gates, big, huge wooden lock gates. You can take a turn at doing that. So Lockport's a fun place to go and poke around. The Western Erie section is also just beautiful cycling territory and one of my favorite places to cycle. Next slide. In the Rochester to Syracuse area, this is where some of the canal is in its old canal bed from the 1800s, but it starts to diverge. And so the territory starts to change here. There's a little more elevation in the cycling territory. So if you're cycling, it's not all flat here. And then you also have a mix of really vibrant canal communities and some sites that are kind of historic canal sites where you're starting to see these old aqueducts and locks. Next slide. 2 places to visit would be Pittsford and Fairport. Those are very lively canal communities. Lots of boaters go there in the summertime. There's great festivals and music, and you can eat right on the waterway, take a stroll along the water. Just a lot of fun there. They're both communities that have boat tours as well. And not very far from there, there's a place called the Old Erie Canal, Lock 60, in a small town of Macedon. It's a little bit of a hidden gem along the waterway. But this is a site that volunteers have completely restored and brought these locks out of being just sort of abandoned and made a park here. And you can see these the huge stoneworks from the old locks, and they're probably best seen from the trail, but you can access this from the water as well. There's a dock that leads to this site. All right, next slide. Syracuse to Little Falls is another place that just really celebrates its canal heritage, both on the old parts of the canals from the 1800s and the current day. If you're a boater, you're going to go through Oneida Lake and Sylvan Beach, which is a very lively summer place. Lots of boaters love this route and love to be in that area. If you're a cyclist, you're going to go right through Syracuse and a place called the Old Erie Canal State Park. This is a 36-mile park from Syracuse to Rome, and it's right on the old waterway. People paddle parts of this, they cycle there, and there's lots of interesting old canal sites to see. So next slide, I'll show you just a couple of those. So one good stop is right in Syracuse, the Erie Canal Museum. This is an old waylock building where canal boats were once weighed, kind of like a toll house for boats. And the museum is there, has a great collection of, canal related things. So it's a good place to learn more. Also on this route is the Chittenango Landing Canal Boat Museum. And this is an old dry dock on the canal, another site that volunteers completely excavated and restored this site. So it's just a remarkable place where you can see, and learn about the canal and its impact on New York. Another nice place to stop on this route is Green Lake State Park, which has this beautiful aquamarine glacial lakes. And, you can swim and paddle and hike. And so that's a nice, they have camping there too. So nice pit stop on this part of the trail. Next slide. In the Little Falls to Albany area, this is where the canal today is in the Mohawk River, which is kind of a mighty, mighty river. It's very, very different than the Western Erie section where you're in a dug channel. It's very scenic. The waterway here is very beautiful and the trail runs alongside much of it. So it's a very different kind of cycling experience than you have in the Western section or even in the other two sections. And it's a region that's really rich in industrial heritage too. Many of the communities here used the river and the canal to fuel industries in the 1800s, and now they're kind of transforming themselves into waterfront communities. Next slide. Some of my favorite places to go in this region are the community of Little Falls, which is right on the canal. They have transformed several enormous stone mills into antique shops and an art center. There's a craft brewery here. It's a very lovely community right on the canal. Amsterdam has a new pedestrian bridge that goes right across the waterway, connects North and South Amsterdam. And it gives you a really nice view of the water. And there's some, beautiful sculptures on the walkway. So that's a nice place to stop along your journey. Schoharie Crossing State Historic Site is on this route as well. And this is a place that you can see multiple eras of the canal, from the very first 1825 addition to later enlargements to the current day. So there's some really beautiful old locks there, and you can also watch today's boats go by. And then I love the Waterford Flight in Waterford. This is really kind of the beginning of the eastern end of the Erie Canal, 5 locks and 1.5 miles. So it's a great place if you're doing a shorter trip to kind of go to Waterford and poke around there. Next slide. So that's a lot of information. And I appreciate you hanging with me through it. What's great though is that you don't need to remember it all, because there's some really good visitor information and resources that you can take advantage of. There are a number of websites listed here, and AAA will post this so you can go back and copy things down. There are maps with information about a variety of sites. There are guidebooks and itineraries. Next slide. There's Parks and Trails. Dylan will tell you about their guidebook for cycling. We have a guidebook for paddlers. There's annual kind of map and guides. And then there are a number of itineraries that are broken out by region. Most of the itineraries pair a state or national park site within the canal corridor with canal sites that are nearby. So it puts together a nice trip. And then it also talks about active recreation within that region that you can take advantage of. Next slide. And then, finally, when you're actually going along the canal, it's important to know that there are canal amenity centers along the way. So these are a variety of places, usually municipally owned and operated. And this is a place where there's visitor information, where boaters or cyclists or day trippers or anybody who's traveling the canal can stop, get information, use the restroom. They have showers. There's overnight dockage for boats. Many times they're connected with their tourism promotion agencies, and you can certainly get information from tourism agencies as well before you're coming. But these places are well stocked, and there's often a lot of, greeters and visitors who can point out some good local things to see and do and help you get around when you're actually on the ground. Next slide. So I hope that I have enticed you to come and visit the Erie Canal, or at least to learn more and to plan a trip. I hope that I get a chance to see you along the canal, perhaps this summer or in the future. And if you have questions, again, put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. Thanks so much.
Jean, a wonderful presentation. So much information and so much to do. So I definitely have to put this on my bucket list as well.
You certainly do. Certainly do.
Thank you very much. It was phenomenal. Our next panelist is Dylan Carey, who heads up the Parks and Trails New York. Dylan is the project director for Parks and Trail New York. Dylan also manages the community trails and active transportation assistance, the education portion, and he is an advocacy efforts, including a partnership with New York State Canal Corporation to promote and encourage stewardship of the statewide canal trail system. So thank you, Dylan, and welcome.
Thanks, Patty, and thanks everybody for taking the time to join us this afternoon. I'm excited to be able to talk a little bit more about the Canalway Trail, and I think Jean did a great job of providing some of the background and history on the canal itself. So next slide. So as Patty mentioned, I work for an organization called Parks and Trails New York. We're a statewide nonprofit. We work to expand, protect, and promote a network of parks and trails throughout the state for use and enjoyment by all. We've been around for over 30 years now, and for the last 25, we've been working in partnership with the State Canal Corporation and with Jean's organization to create a trail system that's not only an asset to the communities that it's nearby, but also a destination for folks to come and visit from around the world. And we really do. We get folks that come from all over the place. Next slide. We run an annual bike tour, Cycle the Erie Canal, and we've had cyclists come from countries all over the globe: Australia, Europe, Asia, all over the place. And this is one of our we run a number of different programs to highlight the Canalway Trail that have come out of the partnership we've had with the Canal Corporation. But Cycle the Erie Canal is really the centerpiece of that. We've held it for 22 years in a row. Last year we held a virtual version of it, much like everything else ended up having to be canceled, but we are planning on having it return in 2021. Registration actually opens in just about a week, on April 1st, and it'll be limited to 300 riders. We're working to make sure that it's COVID friendly, that we're able to make sure that we can keep everybody safe, but we are looking forward to having it again this summer and riding from Buffalo to Albany. And I know Jean's done it in the past. I did it myself 2 years ago now, and it really is great. Takes the 8 days that Jean mentioned, but it's not a race. You ride at your own pace. You kind of take the time to stop in and see the different communities you're going through, and it's fully supported. You don't need to worry about dragging your luggage with you. You don't need to worry about where you're gonna get food, although you of course can stop in the communities and get a snack, but we drive your luggage from rest area to rest area. We've got mechanics on the tour that if you've got a problem, they'll fix up the bike for you. We have the rest areas that you can stop on during the day and have water and snacks and have restrooms available. So more information on our bike tour is available at one of the websites Jean noted, cycletheeriecanal.com, and I'll have that listed again at the end. So next slide. A little quick background on the Canalway Trail, which this is a map of it we have here and how it came to be. So as Jean noted, all along the canal, there were these towpaths that were built when it was originally built. And that was to give the mules a place to walk so that they could pull the old canal boats along. But as the canal switched over to using that motorized power, the towpaths, they weren't needed any longer. So they were abandoned, but in a lot of places they remained in use by the communities or by canalers as kind of informal walking paths. And over time, many of the towpaths were formalized into the use we see today as a multi-use trail. These both run along the currently active canal. As Jean mentioned, that's more in Western New York where you see that. But in Central and Eastern New York, they run along the former alignment. So it's kind of more of a wooded atmosphere where, the old canal is kind of a little overgrown, and it's a little more kind of rural feeling in a different way, not agricultural rural, but more kind of forest and rural. And so over the years, there were various plans that came out about the potential of linking them together and creating a continuous trail that runs across the state. And in 2010, my organization, Parks and Trails New York, started releasing annual Close the Gaps reports, and really to identify, well, what can we do to take these stretches that are here and there and really link them together and create this one complete 360-mile long trail. So next slide. That effort, combined with our advocacy from our partners to complete some other long distance trail networks, led to the announcement in 2017 that the state would create the new Empire State Trail and complete it by the end of 2020. They did it in 4 years. And so it took in a lot of those existing trail sections, but we built a new trail. There was 58 projects with $200 million from the state to build 180 miles of new trail and also 45 gateways and trailheads. And it linked together a lot of these existing trail. And they projected as a part of doing this project that it would see 8.6 million annual visitors. And we're already seeing more than that projection along the Canalway Trail. Last year, we saw 3.9 million visits to Erie Canalway Trail alone, which is more than the Erie Canalway Trail's projected part of that 8.6 million. So next slide.
And what's interesting, Dylan, is that with last year being a year of COVID and everyone pretty much stayed at home,
Yep.
So many families took to biking. It just seems like all around they were selling out of bikes at all the bike shops, so on and so forth. So I know that we just, cut the ribbon this past December on this achievement, and what an opportunity for people now. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. And we're excited. We think a lot of the folks that discovered it last year are folks that might not have known it was there. And so they're going to continue to come back. So I expect to see our numbers grow in years to come for how popular it is. So just a quick map of the Empire State Trail to put it in context. You'd see the Erie Canalway Trail is the east-west route that runs from Buffalo to Albany. And what that links to is a north-south route. It goes from New York City up to the Canadian border, where it connects with some trails that'll bring you up to Montreal. But the southern part goes through the Hudson River Valley on a number of different rail trails that are newly constructed. And then the northern part goes up along the Champlain Canal, or the Champlain Valley, first along the Champlain Canalway Trail up to Whitehall, and then along the shores of Lake Champlain, which if you haven't seen it, that's also a beautiful place to ride. It's nestled right between the Adirondacks and Lake Champlain. So next slide. Looking at the Canalway Trail today, well, so what does it look like? So over the 360 miles between Buffalo and Albany, there's 155 of it is a paved path, and then another 150 miles is stone dust. And then there's still about 50 miles that's on road, although most of that's lower volume roads that are kind of like little back roads, or some of it's just through a village, where the village is built right up on the canal. There's not really a place for a trail there. You just go on a little quiet village road. Primarily, it's used for folks to bicycle, run and jog, and to walk. But there are some stretches that allow snowmobiling during the winter, and some places that allow horseback riding as well. Old Erie Canal State Park, for one, allows horseback riding. As Jean mentioned, it's generally flat. The total net difference in elevation between Buffalo and Albany is only about 560 feet. because it mostly follows the canal. And as you're doing a waterway, you want that to be as flat as possible, because anytime you got to do an elevation, you got to put a lock in, and anytime you got to put a lock in, that jacks the price up. But there's a couple places where it follows some old rail beds as well, and a couple places where there's some hills, but generally pretty flat. And there's signage. There's been signage in place for a long time, but part of the Empire State Trail effort was adding additional signs along the trail, so that whenever you're on that trail, you're seeing Empire State Trail signs, and it tells you where to go, and you just follow the signs, and that'll keep you on the trail. There's also a number of fix-it stations that have been installed. So if you've got some minor repairs you need to do, you can just do them right on the trail and then keep going. So next slide. And I'm not going to get into the trail highlights too much, mostly because Gene covered a lot of the stuff that there is to see there. But there's so much historic canal infrastructure. Gene and I could probably talk for hours, and there'd still be more that we haven't covered about different places, things to see in different parts of the state. One place that I wanted to highlight is Port Byron. And this is actually an exit right off of the New York State Thruway, but it's also a place you can ride to on the Canalway Trail. And you actually can ride, they've paved through the bottom of this old lock, and you can ride your bike through the chambers of an old lock. It really is a unique experience. And then there's there's 4 national historic sites that Gene mentioned as well. Theodore Roosevelt Inaugural in Buffalo, Women's Rights National Historic Park in Seneca Falls, Harriet Tubman National Historic Park is in Auburn, just a short distance off the trail, and then Fort Stanwix National Monument in Rome. And then Gene mentioned there's so many natural areas. Niagara Falls is just a short distance away. Green Lake State Park that Gene mentioned is absolutely gorgeous. And then there's so many other kind of beautiful areas that you can get to in a short trip off the canal. It's a short drive or a short ride away from the shores of Lake Ontario, a short distance from the Finger Lakes. It's not too far to get up to the Adirondacks. So it really is, it's this beautiful corridor, and it's also the centerpiece of so much that New York State has to offer. So just the last piece I want to cover, on next slide, please, is just some of the trip planning resources. And these are some of the resources along the lines of what Gene mentioned that we have available to help plan a trip. And the most well-known is our Cycling the Erie Canal Guidebook. We have a new edition for that. It's released earlier this year. I have my copy right here. Shows all of the new stretches of trail that were built as part of the Empire State Trail. We have it available for our purchase on PTNY's website at ptny.org/shop. It's also available at a number of retailers along the Canalway Trail itself. And it is on Amazon as well, but we ask that buy it through us, please, not through Amazon. But it shows services like lodging. It's got bike shops listed. It's got tips for riding the trail. It's also got some options for camping, which you can do at some locks, but also at some other campgrounds. Shows hotels and B&Bs. We also have some web-based resources. CycleTheErieCanal.com has an interactive map. My screenshot a couple of slides ago was from that. It's got the up-to-date routing of the trail, some of the connecting trails, shows where the attractions are. So it really is kind of an all-in-one resource. And then we have got some other things as well, a quarterly newsletter, Canalway Trail Times, to get some updates on what's going on in the canal corridor. Then we have Erie Canalway Trail social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So next slide. This is just some information about ways to stay in touch, some e-newsletters, and our social media. And yeah, that's it. Looking forward to hearing your questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Again, great information that you're providing, and I'm sure you are going to break that record this year. Okay, thanks again. Our next panelist is Anastasia Stelowski, and she's one of our AAA Northeast travel advisories located right here in Utica, New York. Anastasia is a AAA travel advisory, and she's researching and creating amazing vacations for members every day throughout the pandemic even. Anastasia also worked in the hotel industry, working with the Marriott and Intercontinental Hotel Group, where she previously lived in Florida. Since moving into the Utica area, she has experienced opening 2 new hotel properties in a manager role. She graduated with a veteran assisting certificate and had the opportunity to visit the UK, which gave her the appetite to travel and explore different destinations. So that's where she originally got her bug. In her spare time, she likes to see Broadway musical. She enjoys bringing her dogs on play dates and vacationing with her husband. And she has stated she truly enjoys finding those unique experiences, such as a tour of Paris in a sidecar, or visiting a winery in North Carolina, where you can also experience a Lima meet and greet. Yes, I did say Lima meet and greet. So welcome, Anastasia.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you, Jean and Dylan. Those were wonderful presentations. Basically, what I'm just going to talk to you about today is why you should be booking with the AAA Travel Advisor. And then we're going to go through the different regions for some AAA places to stay, restaurants, things to do, and then at the end, talk about some health and safety protocols. So why you should use a AAA Travel Advisor. So first off, personalization. When you call AAA Travel Advisor, we're going to talk to you like we're your friend. We're here to curate a trip that's just for you. So, and actually, like Patty was saying, one of my things that I've always wanted to do, like maybe you're done with the same old walking tour and you do want to do that tour around Paris in a sidecar that's on a motorcycle. Or maybe you're a foodie that would love to do a hands-on experience. Why not take a pastry class at a local bakery? These are things that we can do for you, plus much more. The next step is expertise. So if you were to take all of the travel advisors that are in our footprint, put them into one person, that one person will have been to every continent around the world. So we are traveling, and if we haven't been someplace, we're willing to learn about that place. If there's a particular destination that's maybe a little bit off the beaten path, a safari or Morocco, something like that, or even the United States, going glamping in Montana, something like that, why not go to our AAA Travel website? You can go to our travel center, see all of our travel advisors there, and then you can find the one that's going to have the expertise that you're looking for. And then next up is our AAA Diamonds. So each year, AAA sends out a team of professional AAA inspectors to thousands of hotels and restaurants to find the best options for our members. They must pass a rigorous inspection and guidelines based off of the latest industry trends and member priorities. Every AAA Diamond property is going to offer a clean, comfortable experience for our members. Then we have peace of mind. So AAA is here to take the stress out of travel planning. So we all know what 2020 was like, and I can't begin to tell you how many times I've had members call and they booked through a third party, and when everything started to shut down, they're trying to call this third party to get a hold of somebody and they couldn't get a hold of it yet. You're not going to have that experience with AAA. When you call AAA, you're talking to a live person. We are here to do the job for you, and we're gonna be the ones sitting on hold for hours on end to get that resolution that you need to make sure you're taken care of. One of the things that our travel department has done this past year is made certifications for all of our travel advisors so that we know exactly what the current travel restrictions and guidelines are so that you don't have to worry about it. Next slide, please. So we're going to start our journey in the Capital District. So we have the Best Western Plus in Franklin Square. It is a AAA 3-diamond property. It has discounted AAA rates, complimentary breakfast. It is pet friendly, so if you did bring Fido along, you do have a place to stay. And it is within walking distance to the Hudson River. As far as some restaurants nearby, we do have Jack's Oyster House. So be sure to check out their raw oyster bar, stuffed lobster, and Atlantic salmon, and to save room for some of their delicious homemade desserts. Then we also have Wellingtons. They are dedicated to local sustainability. So their menu is always changing based off of local ingredient availability. But you are going to find things like meat and cheese platters, kettle chips, and the famous Capital Burger. Then if you're looking for something a little bit more laid back, we highly recommend checking out New York's famous dinosaur barbecue. Some of the best barbecue on the planet. I know my husband has their sauces that he uses for chicken. And what's great about this location is that they are also right on the Hudson. So you'll be able to sit outside and enjoy your meal. And it's only a couple minutes walking distance from the Best Western. Then for some AAA approved things to do. So the Capital District is really a history lover's paradise. There are many, many museums. Just to name a few, we have the Rensselaer County Historical Society, the Schuyler Mansion State Historic Site, and the New York State Museum. Next slide, please.
You know, Anastasia, I love those dinosaur. We have one right in Syracuse that we
Yes.
visit quite frequently.
Yeah, they're great. Like I said, my husband loves their sauces. So next up, we do have the Mohawk Valley region. This will kind of go through Little Falls, Utica, Rome. Where you would be staying, there's a Fairfield Inn and Suites in Utica. It's a AAA 3-diamond property. Complimentary breakfast, discounted rates for our members, and it is actually a 4-minute bike ride from the canal. This is one of the properties that I did help open while I was working in the hotel industry, and we got bikers all the time that were coming right off of the Erie Canal. And then one of the things I didn't mention on the slide is if you walk out the back door of the hotel, there is actually an ice cream shop right there. So if you're visiting during the summer, definitely be sure to check it out. Some of the AAA approved restaurants in the area, we have Delmonico's Italian Steakhouse. As the name denotes, this is an Italian eatery, and like Jean mentioned in her slide, be sure to check out the chicken riggies. Another local specialty would be to check out the Utica Greens as well. Then we have the Savoy in Rome. So this has been in operation since 1908, and they are mainly an Italian restaurant as well. Or you can check out the Canal Side Inn in Little Falls. So this is going to be super close to the Erie Canal project. It is a specialty French restaurant as well. Some AAA approved things to do. We have the Saranac Brewery, or as it's known now, the FX Matt Brewery. It's a 4th generation family brewery. Drink a famous Utica Club, which is one of the first beers that was sold after Prohibition ended. Then you can also check out the Herkimer Diamond Mines. Search for quartz crystals on the ground, visit the miners' village, and basically you keep whatever you find. It's a wonderful family activity. Children under 4 are free. I've taken my family. They loved it. So, or you can see a show at the famous Stanley Theater, which is a historic landmark. And some people even say it's haunted. So, be sure to check that out. Next slide, please. So next up, we have Central New York in the Syracuse region. You'd be staying at the Aloft Syracuse Inner Harbor Hotel, which is a AAA 3-diamond property, also pet friendly. Does have an indoor pool, and it is on the banks of the Onondaga Creek. Some of the restaurants nearby, we have the Lemongrass, which is one of my personal favorites. It's a Thai cuisine. They have really innovative desserts. We'd like to stop there before we go see a show in town. One of my other favorites is Modern Malt. It's a sort of vintage diner decor, but they have a wonderful breakfast brunch selection. They have breakfast poutine. They have like fruity pebble, like pancakes. They really have all these creative things there. But one of the best things is their homemade milkshakes. One of my favorites is the wild berry Pop-Tart flavor. And then we have Possibilities. Possibilities actually did win AAA's Best of 2020 last year too, so that's a great thing. So I would definitely check that out while you're in town. And then some things to do. Yeah. Some things to do. We have the Erie Canal Museum, which I know Jean touched upon. And then we have Destiny USA, which is a 6-story regional shopping and entertainment complex. Venues include World of Beer, Dave & Buster's Wonderworks Museum. They have indoor go-karts. They have a movie theater. They have so much stuff. So I would definitely check that out. And then if you're visiting end of August, beginning of September, you can also check out the Great New York State Fair. You got carnival rides, they have free concerts, and be sure to learn about the agriculture as well while you're there.
With the
Next
Empire
slide,
State
please.
Trail now, the trail actually goes right through the state fairgrounds now. That's one of the changes they did
That's
to the
awesome.
Empire
Yeah.
State Trail. Yep.
Okay. Next slide. All right, and so next up we have the Finger Lakes region in Rochester. So the hotel we have is the Staybridge Suites near Rochester University. It has complimentary breakfast. It is an all-suite hotel, so you would have some sort of kitchenette, kitchen there as well. You do have on-site laundry facilities, which if you are biking this 8-day bike ride, that might be nice by this point. And you do have direct access. You can see my little picture down there. You have direct access to the Genesee River Trail as well. So some AAA rated restaurants. We have the Reveille, which is South Carolina low country cuisine and craft cocktails in a rustic chic setting with chandeliers. And then we have the Linto, which is a restaurant that is specializing in farm-to-table dining. And we have Selena's Mexican restaurant, which is going to be generous portions of traditional Mexican cuisine, basically prepared in the traditional way. Some of the things to do that we have in the area are the George Eastman Museum, which is the world's oldest museum dedicated to photography. It opened to the public in 1949. And we have Crush beer and wine tours. So if you're in the Finger Lakes region, why not go to a winery? They're gonna provide you with a personal driver that's gonna take you to different wineries, breweries, and distilleries in the Finger Lakes region. Me and my husband are actually doing one in a couple weeks, so we're pretty excited. And then just like 10 minutes walking distance from this hotel, you have the Genesee Waterways Center, which like Jean was talking about, you can rent kayaks and canoes to spend your day on the Genesee River. Next slide, please. So next up, we do have the Western New York, Buffalo, Niagara region. Here we would be staying at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, which is a AAA 3-diamond, complimentary breakfast. One of my personal things that I love about the Holiday Inn Expresses is that they have the softest beds. If you like soft beds, this is where you should go. We even bought a pillow top mattress because of how much I love their beds. So you'll get your choice of pillows, and you'll have a microwave and refrigerator in every room. So some AAA restaurants, we have Duff's Famous Wings. So it's a classic location which opened in 1946. Then in 1969, they began serving a newly discovered treat, the chicken wing. And if you're a daredevil, be sure to check out their suicidal sauce. Then we have Oliver's Restaurant, which is actually a AAA 4-diamond experience, and you can do a 7-course tasting menu Tuesday through Thursday. Then we have Wine on Third, which is a tapas bar with an extensive wine list, but their bistro will also feature art from the locals as well. Some AAA rated things to do. We have, if you're in the Niagara region, why not visit Niagara Falls? So you do have the Maid Mist, you know, the famous boat ride where you can get up and close and personal with Niagara Falls. And then as Dylan and Jean mentioned, we have the Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site as well. And then we have Old Fort Niagara. So during the summer months, you'll witness musket and artillery firing demonstrations, go on a guided tour, see artisans at work, and learn about the life of Niagara frontier during the 18th and 19th centuries. And then in the fall, they actually do, if you're into haunted houses, they do a haunted fort as well there. Next slide, please. So most questions that we get on the daily basis being travel advisors are, how safe is it to travel right now? So we can tell you that our hotel partners have taken tons and tons of initiatives to make sure to ensure your safety. So just some of our travel partners, we have Marriott's commitment to clean, requiring that all surfaces be wiped down with hospital grade disinfectant. We have the Intercontinental Hotel Group's Clean Promise, which is partnering with leading experts in using the newest science-led protocols. Hilton's Clean Stay program, they're going to promise to use the same quality disinfectant products that you use at home in their guest rooms. They've actually partnered with Lysol. And then we have Hyatt's Safety First, Wellbeing Always initiative, which is promising hourly cleaning of all guest services, and employees are required to get temperature checks when they walk into the buildings. So, I mean, as you can see, they are taking strides. They want to get you out there, and we want to see you traveling as well. And honestly, like, we wouldn't tell you to travel if we didn't think it was safe right now. Next slide, please. So that was my presentation for today. So thank you so much for listening to me. I do have my contact information right there on the screen. So feel free to contact me whenever you're ready to start your Erie Canal journey.
Thank you so much, Anastasia. Again, great information. So we just have a couple seconds left here. I do have one question that came through on my phone, which is, what is the difference between the Erie Canal and what we have known as the Barge Canal?
Okay, that's all you.
Maybe I should take that one. Today, you know, the Barge Canal is the canal that was, when the Erie Canal was enlarged in 1918, it was known as the New York State Barge Canal System. And it included the Erie, the Oswego, Cuba Seneca, and the Champlain canals as a system of canals and interconnected waterways. The word barge has largely been dropped over the last 10 or 20 years because there isn't so much commercial traffic today. There is some commercial traffic, but you're not really seeing barges. It's really more of a tourist waterway. It's been transformed in the last, 10, 20 years. And so people are back to more using Erie Canal as the main word because that's the canal that everybody knows. That's the canal we love. So we use Erie Canal now. You'll often see Erie Canal interchanged with, sometimes people will use Barge Canal, but pretty much it's the same waterway.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question for you, Jean. Can people help operate locks when going through the full experience?
You don't get to operate the locks, although you can see the locks in operation. The lock tenders are so friendly and they'll show you exactly what they do. It's, very simple mechanical gears that have been in place for 100 years. So we often think of historic Erie Canal, and the canal today is also historic. It's more than 100 years old, the same, features on the landscape as a National Historic Landmark designation. So be sure to talk to lock operators if you're out there, and they'll be delighted to show you around and talk about what they do.
And I have to agree, they're very, very friendly. You just have to watch out if you're touching the sides with those zebra mussels.
Yeah.
Anastasia, I have a question for you. Do you get the same experience and service when booking on AAA.com or only when we speak with an agent?
So you can absolutely book on AAA.com. We've actually integrated our systems over the past year. Honestly, as horrible as 2021, we've done a lot of progress. So when you do book on AAA.com, depending on what you're booking, you could still call AAA and you can actually talk to us about your booking that you made on AAA.com. Personally, I still like going through speaking with an agent because, again, as I stated before, you're still going to have that personalized experience, and it definitely takes a lot of the stress out of you. We're going to do everything.
It definitely does, Anastasia. And just a perfect example was last year with the COVID and how all of the travel advisories sat on hold for hours and hours trying to make reaccommodations or get the members their refunds if they weren't able to travel. Okay, we have a question for you now, Dylan. For cycling and riding the canal tow path, is camping allowed at all lock stations or only certain ones? And are reservations required?
So camping there's a couple that have specific campsites set up that are known as hiker, biker, boater campsites. But the other lock sites do allow camping. You just need to call the lock tender ahead of time. They don't have reservations. It's not formalized campsites or anything, but they'll let you camp on the on the grounds of the lock, but you have to call the lock, the lock tender for each lock ahead of time and let them know that you're coming. But like Jean said, the lock tenders are all incredibly friendly, and they love to have people, camp and stay along the locks.
It's good to hear. Okay, I want to thank all of you, Jean, Dylan, and Anastasia, for taking the time to present such great information. The Erie Canal and Empire State Trails, I learned so much, and I'm sure all of our viewers did as well. I would also like to thank all viewers who have signed on to this webinar today. Thank you. We appreciate it. And a special thank you goes out to Janet Brown, Shawnee, and Mark for all their continued support in preparing and working with me to present this information today. And my closing remarks are, please everyone stay safe and make plans to visit the many things to explore the Erie Canal and the 750-mile Empire State Trail, where the past meets the present. Again, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Take care. Thanks.
Thank you.